Welcome back to Life Rhythms, Tarot, Food, and Spirit. And we thought we had worked out this glitch with this GoPro that I'm using now, and clearly we did not. So here I am. I just ended my sharing of the Empress, my experience of that card in the drawing. And so now I'll continue with day 18. This is the continuation of 31 Days of Tarot, video response to Ethony. So day 18 asks, share something new I learned about Tarot last year, so 2017. And for me, it was the beginning of me embracing and more directly focusing on the historical elements of Tarot, just like dipping my toes in the water and making the commitment to myself and to the practice to begin to explore more work with historical decks, with pip decks, and just in particular Marseille decks and Rider-Waite-Smith decks, just to understand them in a historical context, and then how those decks have moved forward into more indie and modern expressions through decks of newer gifts from of these decks, of Tarot decks. I'm sorry, I'm a little flustered because this got cut off again, and I'm in the back of my mind what's rattling is relax, exhale, be the Empress. Don't worry about it. Okay, so working with historical decks, and my awareness was wakened up a bit, and so that is one of my prime aspirations to continue with in 2018. So, 19. What Tarot deck gives me the heebie-jeebies? And I don't really have an answer for this question. I don't really have an answer for this question. Right now, I haven't come across a deck that I respond to in a way that, in any kind of disturbing way. So right now, I don't have an answer for that. That's 19. So, 20, share a Tarot myth I used to believe and why I stopped, if I did. I think perhaps when I was really young, I mean, like in my teens, even though I was always very attracted to the divinatory arts, and actually had quite a number of people around me that were diviners, if you will. I was always very curious, but also very fearful. And I guess maybe it was a thought of them really being able to see into my soul, which is partially true with this work, is possible, but into the future. And although I do feel that there are people that have, some people that have gifts of that nature, it's certainly not everyone who holds a deck of cards or reads tea leaves or has those skills. So I think I've put those fears aside, and so every time maybe I approach someone reading cards for me, I know that they're not likely anyone who's going to be able to tell me the time of my death or something like that, or of a tragedy of a loved one or anything like this. So those kinds of really extreme seeing possibilities, I think I've let go for the most part. You can see my hesitancy a little bit, because I do believe that there are some people who do have very elevated skills, but there aren't many. So I'll leave it at that. Shared deck storage. And I'm not really in a position to show where I keep my decks, but I basically either keep them in their original boxes, stacked in a little bookshelf cube. We have bookshelf cubicles, and so I have a couple of cubicles, and they're stacked in their boxes. And decks that have needed to get new homes, I have a few bags that are like this, and some decks I keep separate. Some of the soul card decks and more oracle decks, I have a little wonderful little rattan basket that those sit in on one of these little shelving units. I actually am wanting someone to make really great tarot bags. These are really nice. They're sturdy, but they're kind of, I don't know, a little, I don't know, 70s hippy dippy. It's not like I'm looking for something like a really elegant solution for a tarot bag that doesn't cost like $50 a bag. So it's not quite out there, or I haven't hit upon it. So if anybody come at me if you've got like some really great sources for elegant, I don't know, tarot bags, maybe not velvet with all sorts of beads and things on it, something really simple. So because I do have decks that are in need of some new housing, for sure. Boxes are coming apart and things like this. So my tarot storage could definitely be upgraded, some elements of it. 22, share a card that was hard for me to receive or understand. And well, there are several in the Suit of Swords, but the one that I'll speak to that has been one that I worked with the most in the last couple of years has been the Death card, or Arcanum 13, the card with no name. And because that was definitely a card, maybe this could also speak to the myth that I had and no longer believe in. And so when that card would show up, I would have and this was even before this is many years before I was dealing with the current health challenge that I'm dealing with, which is the cancer. But dealing with this life challenge and change, I've really made friends with card 13 and really see it and almost welcome it because I understand it as a transformation and the possibility and the continuing possibility for transformation on all levels, physical, emotional, spiritual, with myself, with my relationships, with how I am in the world. And it's one of the biggest challenges I've ever had. But the card, as it appears, when it appears, really moves me at this point rather than me moving away from it. So that would be the card that I've definitely changed relationship with. And that's just a very short recounting of my relationship with it. And then the last one that I'll cover for today is share a tarot deck breakup. And I guess it's not officially a breakup because I never really developed much of a relationship with the deck, but it is the wild unknown. And I say that very hesitantly because I know that it's quite a beloved deck for many people. And I totally, on many, many levels, get why that is. The images are beautiful, stark, raw, rugged, really speak to that, really speak to my high priestess familiar tendencies. But the overall energy behind the deck and the little book that came with the deck, which some people might say, well, just put the book aside. But the whole deck for me became infused with, for me, a sense of somebody that was working out some issues in the creating of the deck, which all art is on some level. But for me, for where I was in my life when I received the deck, and I held on to the deck for about 1.5 years, and it was actually before this illness hit, so it was just much too dark for me, and I guess I should just leave it at that. And I couldn't transform it enough, my relationship with it enough to keep it, but I did find it a new home, and it is in the hands of someone who is loving it and working with it, and so I did shepherd the deck to its appropriate home, and so that was my breakup, and this is my offering for today, again in 2 parts. I apologize. One of these days, maybe for the second half of 2018, I'll make it an aspiration to learn how to edit so I can put these things together. But for right now, for the energy that I have, it's in 2 parts. And I am so thankful that I'm taking part in this process and watching everybody and getting to know people more in the community. And as I always end, because it is true, I am gratitude filled with having, for myself, for having to taken the leap to do this. It's not that easy to be in front of the camera and talk about some of these things and share them and put them out there, but also for everyone who does the same and takes the same chances and is vulnerable enough to share parts of themselves. And so in that, the creation of a really wonderful community to be a part of. And so thank you, and be well until we see one another again.